Broads Media.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. What a world we're living in, huh? The Philadelphia Flyers have won 6 of their last 7 games. I have no idea what is going on, but damn it, let's talk about it. You go back to their West Coast swing, and that's where it all began. You sort of knew that they could beat a team like San Jose. You knew they could beat a team like the Arizona Coyotes. Who else was thrown in there? Oh, yeah, the Anaheim Ducks, who's probably going to end up with Connor Bedard. So, you know, the impressive one throughout that streak was going to L.A. and beating the Kings. But at the end of the day, you think to yourself, okay, it was a nice little roadie, but reality will hit. So they lose to the Toronto Maple Leafs. You think, okay, 6-2, you're at home in South Philly. This is where it kind of spirals out of control again. They go to Buffalo and kick ass with a dominant 4-0 performance with your backup tendy. Joel Farabee gets on the board. Noah Cates scores a goal. Travis Konecny gets 2 apples. And by the way, Travis Konecny is playing dominant hockey. He's got 24 goals. He's got 46 points in 36 games. He is elevated to a ridiculous player who's scoring shorthanded goals on 2-on-1s. He's lighting the lamp at will. It's outrageous. And it's funny because when they beat Buffalo, I thought to myself, well, Buffalo, and this was the second half of a back-to-back, may I add, for the Flyers, but you look at Buffalo's schedule, and that was a first of a back-to-back with them knowing the Seattle Kraken were coming to town. I wonder if they did a little look-ahead, if they went with the look-ahead approach. We know Seattle's really good. We know the Philadelphia Flyers aren't really good. You get your ass kicked against the Flyers because you're thinking about Seattle, but who cares if you're the Flyers, right? Because here comes the Washington Capitals in your own building, and they look really damn sharp again. Not only that, they faced adversity in that too, because when they went up a couple of goals, 4-1 to be exact, Ivan Provorov, it was such a bad pass that the broadcast actually thought the only reasonable thing that could have happened was he thought the Washington Capitals was a Flyers player. That's how right up the middle, pizza delivery, throwing it in the slot. It was egregious. So now it's 4-2. Then TJ Oshie scores. Now it's 4-3. We've seen this team fold a billion times, but they didn't fold. In fact, they actually drew a power play. Joel Farabee in the defensive zone. TJ Oshie's giving him a hook and a hack. The Flyers get on the man advantage, and that's basically all she wrote. They kept battling, and they keep playing. They keep making nice, simple plays that are so large in the grand scheme of things. JVR playing the puck off the wall, which is giving them an opportunity to get up with space and make a play on an odd man rush. Scott Lawton is making ridiculous plays, but, you know, it's like the things that happen before goals, the things that happen before a scoring chance that you go back to. It's like, damn, it's greasy. What a greasy play. What a grind play. The little details of the game. And I'm not surprised because that's what John Tortorella stresses, or guess what? You're not going to play. But you go through what we've been through to this point, which is just egregious hockey, and now you're seeing 6-7. I hate to say it, right? Because part of me is like everybody else. They're a disaster. We need change. Chuck Fletcher has to go. This isn't good for the organization. You're going to be stuck. Even though in hockey, I'm a huge believer in this isn't the NBA. Being stuck in hockey isn't the same because the LA Kings, you get in as the 8th seed, you could go. You get in as the St. Louis Blues, worst team in hockey, go win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers made it to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2010 before the heartbreaker of Patrick Kane on a shootout in the last game of the regular season with Boosh and the celebration. So it's not as tough in hockey as it is in other sports. But, you know, there's legitimacy to where the franchise is right now. I'm not going to argue that to anybody. The other part of me goes, I could tune into this team every night right now. I can appreciate the team. Do you know how many games I've watched over the last 2 weeks out of market? 1 billion. Like, I am stuck in watching all the other great teams. Boston, I hate the Bruins, but in regards to good hockey, I can't stop watching. I can't stop watching L.A. late at night on the West Coast. Of course, Connor McDavid, I'm always going to tune into. They played the Ducks last night. He's doing spinorama, excuse me. Maybe I should talk better. Moves and burying it. The World Juniors, I was addicted. And there's a part of me, too, for the first time, this is a little side topic, not so much Flyers, more on a personal note. But for the first time in my life, since hanging up the skates, I'm missing the game. I broke down at one point thinking about the boys, thinking about the locker room, thinking about the road trips. I'm watching the game right now, I'd say over the last 2 weeks. I think the World Juniors really did this to me because I'd say the last time I really enjoyed the game to that level, I was 18, 19, 20 years old. College experience, it was a bit of a grind in and out of the lineup. 7th, 8th D-man, healthy scratch. It is what it is. That was my role at one point. So it became a mental and brutal battle, the late stages. But man, I've been just watching guys skate around with the puck and I go, I need to go play men's league. I can't wait to get the rollerblades on when it's nice in May, June, or maybe even early spring, and go rock at the local park at the rink and shoot some biscuits. Like I'm really missing it more than I ever have in my life. But anyway, to tie this all back together, the fact that I'm missing it this much and I can turn on a team that I love so damn much in the orange and the black and get some satisfaction watching the game with my own team, that hasn't been the case so far this season. You could plug in any netminder at this point. Backup, Tendy, Carter Hart. They're all playing ridiculous in the pipes. I don't want to overlook what Carter Hart did in this game against Washington to put them in a good position to succeed. But you know what? It all stems right now from Travis Konecny. From TK. I still stand by my ground on how John Tortorella handled the Kevin Hayes situation. I didn't like it whatsoever, to bench him and then healthy scratch him and all that stuff. But I will admit that there is stuff that John Tortorella does do well, and there are things that he does to get the best out of certain players. And at one point in this season, he benched Travis Konecny for a period, and since then, TK really hasn't looked back. He scores the goal. He does this celebration where he screams and he puts his one knee up. And it's like every single goal, his celebration is like he hasn't scored before. He hasn't scored in 10 games, 15 games. He's like, dude, you're on a tear. Dude, this point streak is absurd. Now, here's what I don't care about. And I feel like I'm the outlier, but it is what it is. Oh, he got robbed of the All-Star game. It shouldn't have been Hayes. I don't care. I don't care. It is what it is. The way I look at it, especially at the time, right? Now we've seen them win a couple more games. But for me, if your team blows like the Flyers have for a majority of this season, you making the All-Star game, there's no pride in that for me. Now, if you guys are, let's say you're the Tampa Bay Lightning, you're the Boston Bruins, your team's at the top of the league, you're putting up ridiculous points every single night. And then there's some like, I want to watch my guys go out and compete at the All-Star game. I want to see them do their thing and put the Flyers on notice for the excellent season they're having as a squad. But if you're like this level of turmoil as a franchise, whether it's fair or not to the player, my passion doesn't lie with the All-Star game. You have to be one of the best teams in the league for me to care to that level for All-Stars. And even then, I don't care that much. Now, that's a selfish thing. Maybe not. I don't know. It's an individualized thing. If you're having a good season, you're having a good season, yada, yada, yada. I get it. But Torts, he's just an interesting cat because this stuff kind of doesn't matter anymore. But when Kevin Hayes did get announced, he got asked about the All-Star game. He goes, I don't give a damn about that. I don't care about that. Any way possible in his way to take shots at Kevin Hayes, he's going to do it, no matter what. And yes, Travis Konecny was more deserving than Kevin Hayes, but not something I care to waste my energy on. There's things that matter to me within the sports world that I think, you know what, it's worth it. You know what, it's worth my time. You know what doesn't fall in that? A Flyers All-Star player and the lack thereof, I guess, when this is what we've gotten so far this season. But they're playing better right now. And you look at what's upcoming. This can continue for a little bit of time. I don't want to get too far ahead with their schedule and whatnot, but they play the Capitals again on Saturday. Very fascinated to see how this goes, because it's very difficult to win a game like you did last night and then follow that up with another one against the same opponent. Bruins in Boston. That might be a little bit of an uh-oh. Anaheim, Chicago. Two of the worst teams we've ever seen. I said Anaheim might be getting Connor Bedard. Could be Chicago, too. And the Detroit Red Wings. All winnable games. Then it really starts to pick up. Now, I feel like I'm breaking down a football schedule. WL. But I just want to put it in perspective on how they actually can continue this nice little run before a really, really tough stretch comes. Because you play Winnipeg. You play LA Kings. You have the Wild. You have the Winnipeg again. Followed up by the Islanders. Edmonton. Nashville, it's a beatable opponent, but Seattle twice in a row. Those are some really, really good teams. Not saying it's impossible if you're playing with this level of confidence. I have to admit, it's fun to see the guys have a smile on their face. It's fun to see the players enjoy the game. I've been in a lot of locker rooms in my life. When it's bad, I was in a locker room where a coach got fired mid-season. The morale is no joke. And it's brutal. Going through losing streaks. We won the first game of the season against the best team in the entire league dating back to the previous year, and they ended up still being that season one of the best teams in the league. So we're like 1-0. We're stoked. You go on a nine-game skid. Now you're 1-9, and the owner was like, yo, we got to change it up here, boys. We ended up being just under 500, but the coach who came in was an absolute jag-off. I don't want to relive that part. It's enjoyable, though, when it's the other way around. Going to the rink every day with a purpose. Going to the rink every day. Shooting the breeze with the boys. And you got a nice young core doing it right now. Noah Cates, always doing the little things that John Tortorella loves. Cam York, his ass was sent down big time in the beginning. Outmatched, overpowered physically and mentally, I thought. Remember some of those embarrassing the real one embarrassing goals in the preseason game, I believe it was, where he got worked. Manhandled. Now he's playing pretty good. Owen Tippett. Yo, can we talk about Owen Tippett's goal last night? That rip? Used the defender as a screen? What? And I'm looking up now. He's got what? I want to look at how many goals he has so far this season. He's got 13 goals in 37 games. 23 points. Could be a 20-goal scorer. Well, at this rate, 37 would be halfway through the season. Could he get 25? I even said this a little bit last year. He's got a rip. He could shoot the biscuit. A lot of the times, he was around the greasy areas to score, and he was close to ripping it, but the problem be he hit the post. There's a wide open net. He's just completely airmailing the puck. Like, he was around the chances to score. He just couldn't find it. He couldn't bury it. He couldn't bear down. All Swedish, no finish. Could that change? There's something in the player of Owen Tippett. He's a nice-sized body. I think he's got some girth out there. Thick. Can absolutely shoot it. A howitzer, if you will. You know, it's an interesting thing. And John Tortorella is grabbing a lot out of these players. I think a lot of it comes from fear. And I even said this when I was ripping Torts. He's a good coach. He's a good coach. He crosses the line in a few spots that I don't think you need to be that level of a jag-off to some of your players. Like, I don't feel it's necessary, but there's a lot within him as a coach that does well with limited play. He grabs a lot out of players that maybe a lot of coaches don't get the most out of. You saw that a lot in Columbus. The way they competed with their roster was interesting. And you're seeing that right now with the young guys. Konecny, Just listing some others. Joel Farabee. Joel, I think, had an issue with the physical side of things, with rushing back from what the injury was last year. Think about it. Did anyone really anticipate him to start the season when he did? I think it'll be probably a full season until maybe we talk about Farabee the way we did in previous times. I still think it's in there. I haven't seen it this season, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and the opportunity with time to really, prove himself, because what he did go through was pretty damn wild. I mentioned that Provorov turnover. Now, Elliot Friedman is on NHL Network, and he's talking about how the Flyers and Provorov are maybe at a spot where it's time for some change. I'm all in. I'm all in with a lot of things, to be honest with you. Let me see if I could find the clip. Maybe I'll even play it for you. We have some text messages and calls, too, that we'll get to. So, man, that turnover that keeps popping up is ugly. I can't believe it. Let's see. Latest for Provorov. Maybe videos. The clip was going around town yesterday. I could search NHL Network. Instead, I searched Provorov like a dope. All right. Forget it. It's not that big of a deal. It's just Elliot Friedman saying that over the next X amount of months, it seems like the Flyers are willing to doing anything. And Provorov, with the cap hit, is something that could possibly have some return. It is interesting the way he phrased it, though, because he said the Flyers are kind of concerned that he might get traded and become a stud and become a player elsewhere. Who cares? Who cares? He's been here since 2016. He's had every opportunity to turn into something here. He hasn't turned into something here. And guess what? If he does go elsewhere, if he does turn into a nice player, I doubt it's going to be a number one defenseman, which at one point he thought he was going to be. And a lot of this, too, is him. He's got a little Ben Simmons in him, from what I'm being told. He thinks he is the best. He thinks he is the greatest. Newsflash, dude. You're not. So I think he's smelling himself a little too much. A trade could be a wake-up call for him. But I know it won't work here. I'm going for a lot. A lot of things. The question is, do I trust the person in charge who would then be making the decision on the trade? Well, I'll tell you for free, the answer is no. All right, why don't we listen to you? Enough of me, right? You guys get enough of me all the time. All right. Let's hear from you. Jimmy chimed in. Let's listen to Jimmy.
Do I think this Flyers hot streak is going to last? Probably not. I mean, it's good but it's good that it's happening right now. I mean, this team was dead in the water like a month ago, and I mean, they're at least showing some fight. They're showing something. I'm not saying they're going to go to the playoffs. They're not going to win the cup or anything like that, but it's nice that they're actually somewhat watchable right now. Travis Konecny, I didn't think he had this in him. He's on pace to finish with over 40 goals this season. This franchise has not had a 40-goal scorer since Jeff Carter in 2009. So he's been fun to watch. Hey, at least it's something right now. At least it's something, because the Phillies are making moves. The Eagles are going to be in the playoffs. The Sixers are going to be in the playoffs again. It's nice that the Flyers are at least trying to be watchable and not be the black sheep of Philadelphia sports right now.
The main thing you hit on was Travis Konecny, and it's funny, right? Like, we finally have something super entertaining, and yet the fan base, I guess this just happens throughout all of our sports teams, though, are fighting over the term to describe TK. Is he a superstar? Yeah, he's a superstar. You get half the fan, but yeah, superstar. Then you have others going, maybe a star. Then you have others saying, really, really good player. Look, to me, superstar is Nathan McKinnon. Superstar is Cale Makar. Superstar is a player doing it for a long period of time. Maybe this is the start of Travis Konecny turning into a superstar. If you could score 40 goals 4 years in a row, 5 years in a row, then yeah, I mean, you can turn into a superstar. You know what I mean? Like, superstar to me, though, I don't see that's it depends on your terminology. Sidney Crosby, Ovechkin, Makar, McKinnon, that's superstar to me. I don't see Travis Konecny in that tier. That doesn't mean I don't appreciate him for what he's doing and he's playing fantastic. You got to do it for more than just one season. But yeah, I mean, he's leading you right now. Leading you. And I've been on the record. Is Konecny a leader in years past? I would say the answer is no. This year, he's really showed me something. This year, he's answered the bell to John Tortorella pretty aggressively. Better than I would have thought he would, just knowing his personality and his style of play. So I got to give him a lot of credit. Outside of goals, outside of stats, outside of numbers and assists, it's the way he's carrying himself that I think goes just as far as lighting the lamp 40 times, which is damn impressive. And you talk about leadership, who gets the C, who doesn't get the C. We ask Tortsy that every day. Every day for a long period of time. We're watching someone grow into a leadership role. And in my eyes, someone who I didn't anticipate necessarily doing that. For me, it's not always the guy who scores the most. It's not always the best player. Look at Columbus. Look at their captain over the years with Torts. Look at who he picked to have the A here. A Scotty Lawton. There's value when it's those level of guys. Well, I think it's super, super impressive for what TK's doing, and he's putting the team emotionally and on the scoreboard on his back. And I really didn't know if he could do it to this level. I really had questions about it, which was fair. I wasn't too mean. That wasn't too harsh. I watched him play for a handful of years. He could always shoot the puck. He always had a cannon. But there was ways about his game that something was just off. And he's starting to fill those holes and become more of a complete all-around player and doing it consistently on a night-to-night basis. Kid just had a hattie yesterday. A shorty. He could score on the peeper. And one of his goals was so important because the Flyers were up 1-0. They allow a goal with barely any time left in the first period. And before the 20 ended, he's right in the greasy area, net front, with the beauty to put the Fly guys back up 2-1 before the intermission started. Goes a long way. Those first 2 minutes, last 2 minutes of a period, massive. Momentum changers, momentum swings. Extremely important. I just want to make sure I'm giving him the proper credit because it is really, really ridiculously impressive what he's doing. All right, some text messages. Lou chimes in. Bro, do you think this is actually real? Or could it be a simple streak teams normally put together at some point of a regular season? I hate to play the middle ground here, but could it be both? Hear me out. Teams win games. There's going to be a time, I don't know. I mean, Chicago, Anaheim, they're bad. And as much as we rip the Flyers, they're not bad. They were just bad. But throughout any season, there's probably a team that isn't very good that can win 4 straight, win 5 straight, win 6 games. Like, it happens. At the same time, they're doing it legitimately. It's not faulty. Now, some of these games came against teams that are bad. So when you do that, it builds momentum. Morgan Frost, if he played the Coyotes every single game, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. He'd be the best player to ever live. 4 points consistently. Wrap it up. Morgan Frost is going to be the first player of the game. It's crazy. So there's a lot to that. But at the same time, that kind of bleeds into some of these other opponents where it's like, hey, we saw what we can do when we get some odd man rushes. We see what we can do when we have time and space with creativity. We did it last game. Sure, it was the Coyotes, but now we're playing Buffalo. And they dominated that game against Buffalo. Arguably the best I've seen the team play all year. It helps with Urson being like that. He was great. And I know that they really like him. And I'm intrigued by what he can do. He's a damn good player. Not starting any controversy. It's good to have two netminders you can plug in between the pipes. I think it's a combination of both. Teams go on nice runs throughout 82. At the same time, though, players are playing damn well. And they deserve it right now. The young kids are stepping up. They're making plays. They're making this happen. They're not lucking their way into it. They're taking control. Do I think it lasts forever? No. I think we have a good grasp on what this team is. If Flyers hockey has described anything over the last handful of years, it's extreme highs and extreme lows. Losing 10 in a row, winning 10 in a row. Now, the weird part is, would we all be shocked if the year they lose 10 in a row, they make the postseason? I didn't just say that. We're going to move forward here. I'm just saying. You know how bonkers it gets in Flyers land. This no-name text in. Who do you give most credit for, or who do you give most credit to for the turnaround? Well, it's got to be Tortsy. A lot of the times, I look at players more than anybody. And there's a lot to be said about the players being the one on the ice, playing as hard as they are. The fear of not playing, if you don't play well, is what's driving this to happen. John Tortorella's presence is why this is going down. So I got to give Tortsy the nod here on why this is happening. Cam York is playing well because of the way Tortorella handled him. Noah Cates. I guess Noah Cates is a little different because he played and then John Tortorella was like, whoa. I like the simplistic way and all the little things he does well. Players are like, I love playing with Cates. Why? If I mess up, we know he's in the right position. If I mess up, we know he has our back, right? So he might be a little different because he just played and then Tortsy stepped in and goes, I like that kid. But TK, Owen Tippett, it all stems from the head coach right now. So all I'm saying is, whether it's good, it's bad, Chuck Fletcher, Briere, or who else are we talking? Dave Scott, whatever it is. Let's just shut up and enjoy it for a little bit of time. There'll be plenty of opportunities to bitch about this franchise. I promise you that. But for right now, something I couldn't have imagined seeing this season was a nice 7-game span of enjoyable hockey. And now, I can't wait for Saturday. Now, I can't wait to see what they do against the Capitals after what they just did last night. I want to see them back on the ice. I'm ready for puck drop. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to say it. So let's just embrace it for a little bit of time. And this, my friends, is where we're going to wrap things up. Thank you guys all so much for hanging out with me. Flyers hockey. Who would have thought? Love you guys. Catch you later.